Do you remember Joe? We met him in the first video when, unknown to him, some of his own body's cells were secretly rebelling against him and developing into cancer. These cells have essentially become traitors. We learned that his body cells normally die of old age and have to be replaced by new ones produced by cell division and multiplication. But with so many cells dividing every single day of his life, some mistakes are bound to be made, leading to mutations which can cause abnormal cells. Many of these abnormal cells do not misbehave, but a few may become malignant. So, how did Joe stay healthy for so long? The answer lies in a powerful early detection system, the immune system, essentially the body's own police force. This remarkable network has the ability to scrutinize millions of cells for significant abnormalities, identifying potential troublemakers or traitor cells among them. When a threat is detected, the immune system acts quickly and efficiently, eliminating the bad cell before it can cause harm. In general, the immune system is highly effective at protecting us from bacteria, viruses, and even rogue cells that could become cancer. But cancer cells are uniquely challenging. They're derived from our own normal cells, and their differences can be subtle. Some manage to develop clever disguises, masquerading as normal cells or finding ways to hide from the immune system's watchful eyes. Even so, most of the time Joe's immune system is able to find and destroy these traitor cells. But sometimes a bad cell manages to slip through the cracks, and that's when the trouble begins. The plot begins with the bad cell dividing and multiplying to form other cells, and they are also all bad actors. In Joe's case, this dastardly plot has been going on in secret for some time now, and enough of the bad cells have been formed that they are starting to affect the function of his normal cells. They have done this in a number of ways. By forming a tumor, they have taken up space and shoved aside, or even murdered their normal neighbor cells. They have seized territory that does not belong to them, and they have even more nasty tricks that they may use to get their way. They can invade or put pressure on normal, finely tuned structures such as nerves so that they don't function normally. They can even eat away and weaken normal structures such as bones, which may cause them to break. Sometimes they dump toxic chemicals or abnormal proteins into the body. This is a parody of normal cell behavior, as normal cells produce chemicals and proteins that Joe needs to function. It's a cruel joke and it is not funny. They can break away from their parent tumor and go someplace else in Joe's body to grow. They really don't care where they go, but will happily live in places they don't belong. And of course, they will wreck the new neighborhood as well. They are the worst type of squatter. They are not working for Joe, but against him, and it is beginning to show. In other words, he is starting to feel ill. Not seriously ill, just a little bit under the weather. He does not have as much energy as he used to. Initially he thought it was just from getting older, but now it is beginning to bother him. His wife Sarah has also noticed that he has lost some weight. He's just not the man that he used to be. In addition, depending on where the tumor cells are in his body, he may have some symptoms related to that specific location. He has a good job at the bank with good benefits, including health insurance, and despite what his boss thinks, actually enjoys working. He would like just once to be Employee of the Month, but for some time now he has noticed more and more fatigue by the end of the day, and now he has begun to slow down at work. So he reluctantly goes to see his doctors. The doctors do not yet know what is wrong with Joe. Joe may have only vague complaints such as that he just is not feeling well. How do his doctors figure out what is causing his illness? It is important for the doctors to keep an open mind, as there are several possible things that can make Joe feel bad. The doctors begin by asking Joe several questions. What has Joe noticed about his body that is different? What exactly is bothering him? Does he have pain, any bleeding, any swelling, and so on? The doctors are listening carefully for any clues that can help narrow down the possible causes of Joe's illness. This requires patience, training, and experience. The next step is a careful physical examination of Joe's body. This is to search for more clues. Are there any lumps in Joe's body that should not be there? Do any of Joe's organs look or feel abnormal? Depending on what the doctors have heard and found so far, Joe will likely need additional tests. Blood tests may be drawn which may show that something is affecting the normal functioning of one or more of Joe's organs. But what is it? To find out, Joe will likely need even more specialized tests. The doctors need to be able to look inside Joe's body. How? Unlike Superman, doctors do not have X-ray vision. But, thanks to modern technology, we now have excellent imaging machines. These could include X-rays, computerized tomography scans, MRIs, and some even more specialized tests such as PET scans, bone scans, and gallium scans. These use specialized techniques including low-dose radiation, magnetic waves, and special chemicals to create a picture of the inside of Joe's body. Hopefully, these will reveal the presence of the cancerous tumor hiding within the otherwise normal organs. Often they show up as a suspicious, irregular-looking lump. So now the doctors can see a picture of the tumor inside Joe's body, but more information is needed. All that is known at this point is that there is an ominous shadow in Joe's body that should not be there. It definitely seems to be some form of tumor. But is it benign or malignant? Joe's life literally depends on the answer. The appearance of the tumor on the imaging scans can be a clue. Malignant tumors often have irregular margins with tendril-like appendages and look like they are trying to invade tissues next to them. Benign tumors, on the other hand, often have smooth margins. They tend to look more like they are just pushing the neighboring tissues to the side rather than invading them. Unfortunately, this is not enough information for the doctors to decide on a treatment plan, as the scans are not foolproof. Malignant tumors can look like benign tumors on scans and vice versa. The doctors need to see the actual cancer cells, the same way police need to see a picture of a criminal in a lineup to be sure they are the bad guys. The best way to do this is to get a sample of tissue from this tumor. In other words, Joe needs a biopsy. There are several possible ways to get a biopsy, but they are all invasive procedures which require taking something out of Joe's body. So the doctors must carefully consider using the safest and least uncomfortable procedure, which will provide the most information. Fortunately, in most cases, only a tiny sample of tissue is needed. Rather than cutting Joe open to get the sample, as was required in the last century, nowadays a special needle can often be inserted from the outside directly into the tumor without causing any surgical scars. This tissue is then sent to the pathologist, a special doctor who will examine it under the microscope. The pathologist can look at the structure of the tissue as well as the individual cells and say if they look benign or malignant. The tumor cells may have a capsule, which is sort of like a fence, separating them from the neighbors. This suggests that they're trying to mind their own business. Benign tumor cells tend to look very like the normal cells. They're usually orderly and don't look like ruffians. There are just too many of them, more than Joe needs. Although they take up space, they don't look menacing. Malignant cells usually are very disorganized. Under the microscope, they may look far more menacing, as if they are willing and able to do grievous bodily harm. They may look like primitive or simplified versions of the normal cells from which they are derived. But any resemblance to the normal cells is just an illusion. Malignant cells are always bad guys. They are not interested in contributing anything to the welfare of Joe's body and do not bother to do any honest work. So they may not fully develop the normal tools that would be required for them to function as a good member of the body's society. Instead, they may show tools that are designed just to let them grow and multiply. In other words, not only are they traitors, they are also parasites. But now they have been discovered, their evil intentions and nasty plot have been revealed, and it is time to deal with them. In the next video, we will explain just how Joe, with some much-needed help, is planning to do just that.